Hey everybody, Rick here. The Cyberwire Pro's quarterly analyst call, where we discuss the biggest stories in cybersecurity for the past 90 days, is quickly coming up on June 30th from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Industry experts joining me for this discussion are Dr. Georgiana Shea, Chief Technologist of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and Ben Yelin, co-host of the Caveat podcast and program director for public policy and external affairs at the Maryland Center for Health and Homeland Security. This quarter has been busy. You don't want to miss this discussion. We have a lot to talk about. Subscribe to Cyberwire Pro to become part of the conversation at thecyberwire.com/pro.
And now, a message from our sponsor, Insights. Insights believes that threat intelligence benefits organizations of all shapes and sizes by helping them proactively defend against an attacker's next move. That's why Insights is offering a free, personalized company threat intelligence report to help you manage the risk in today's cybersecurity landscape. Using only your company's domain, Insights' proprietary tools find potential external threats, including phishing attacks and dark web mentions, targeting your organization within minutes. To download your free threat intelligence report, go to insights.com/cyberwire. And we thank Insights for sponsoring our show. Legitimate tools are abused as commodity initial access payloads. Hades ransomware is circulating in some new sectors. Criminal markets are sharing more features with legitimate markets, including advertising, recruiting, and even funding rounds. Cybercrime uses cryptocurrency, but the key to success may be location more than technology. Ben Yelin describes insurance companies collaborating on cyber breach data collection. Our guest is Michael Osborn from Moody's on a recent rash of cyber attacks hitting higher education. And Denmark's central bank is reported to have been a victim of the SolarWinds compromise. From the Cyberwire studios at Data Tribe, I'm Dave Bittner with your Cyberwire Summary for Tuesday, June 29th, 2021. Proofpoint has concluded that Cobalt Strike, the well-known legitimate penetration testing tool, is becoming increasingly popular as an initial access payload deployed by threat actors. It's become a commodity tool, more often used by cybercriminals than by state-run advanced persistent threats. Criminal activity using Cobalt Strike peaked in 2019 and 2020 and has fallen off somewhat since, but it remains a problem. Crediting research by Accenture, Cyberscoop reports that the Hades ransomware gang is coming into sharper focus. It's recently been targeting consumer goods and services, insurance and manufacturing, and distribution industry sectors. It's also added Phoenix Crypto Locker to its arsenal. Unlike other ransomware groups, Hades does not appear to use an affiliate network. Attribution remains murky, with various researchers calling it a new group, and others linking Hades to either Russian or Chinese threat actors. Criminal markets continue to develop similarities with legitimate markets. Lifars has shared a new wrinkle in this trend with Fast Company. Cybercriminal groups are investing in promising new ransomware enterprises in much the same way venture capital firms invest in tech startups. In exchange for financial support, the criminal backers receive a cut of future profits. Calls for investment are typically made over secure chat apps like Telegram, and only investors with proven connections to the criminal underworld are accepted. So, if you're a prospective backer of a ransomware gang, not that you would be, of course, but just suppose, you'd have to show that you'd made your bones, as La Cosa Nostra says in the movies. In this case, you don't do that by whacking some jamoke, but rather by showing some evidence that you've been involved in digital crime. Fast Company says that sending a token amount of cryptocurrency traceable to a ransomware incident or something similar to a certain address will usually suffice. Why would you bother either soliciting investment or deciding to invest? Aren't criminal operations like ransomware effectively self-funding? They are, for the most part, but they have their startup expenses too, and even hoods need to eat while they're waiting for the victims to pay up. Some of those startup costs may include hiring skilled coders who can build or modify the ransomware. They need infrastructure to process payment and distribute decryptors, and they need access to deep-pocketed targets. They could fish for that access themselves, but increasingly they find that it's easier to buy that from criminal initial access brokers who've already fished, stolen, or brute-forced compromised systems. As far as investors are concerned, Lifar's CEO Andre Crahill says it's a way of spreading your risk around. You can put all your money in one basket, or you can diversify, he told Fast Company. Ransomware gangs are also advertising not only for affiliates, but for tech talent as well, Bleeping Computer reports. They do that in ways that will be familiar to people looking for customers or talent in legitimate markets. Show your wares and your capabilities in the best possible light. Everybody wants to join a winner, and that's the conventional wisdom in the underground as much as it is up here. So the hoods see a small altcoin transaction as acceptable evidence that you're probably a fellow criminal and not a police officer or an agent provocateur. That confidence, of course, can't be absolute since the authorities can be wily, but the crook's instincts are probably more or less sound. And again, like Cobalt Strike, cryptocurrency is far from being inherently nefarious. It has plenty of legitimate uses. But cryptocurrency has undeniably acquired a bad reputation. FireEye's CEO Kevin Mandia told CNBC yesterday that, quote, "It's an enabler that you can break in anonymously and be paid anonymously, and now you can commit crime from 10,000 miles away in a safe harbor," end quote. Not everyone agrees, it's important to note. CNBC also quotes Katie Hahn, a partner at venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz, an investor in crypto startups, who says it's a myth that Bitcoin is good for criminal activity. She says, quote, "Crypto is a step-level function improvement above the existing financial system in terms of traceability. The fact is, when crypto is used for illicit activity, it leaves digital breadcrumbs, and I can tell you that firsthand, I used blockchain technology to actually solve crimes," end quote. Hahn had former experience as a prosecutor. So it seems not so much the altcoin as the criminal's base of operations that presents the problem. If the extortionists work with the tacit or explicit permission of a host government, it's difficult to bring them to book, which is what Mandia appeared to have in mind when he told NBC that governments had an important role to play in suppressing ransomware. He said, quote, "We have to consider all the tools of diplomacy to back the desired outcome we want, which is quite frankly to make sure that there's risk imposed to those who take advantage of cyberspace and the anonymity it offers," end quote. Denmark's central bank was among the organizations exposed in the SolarWinds compromise, Reuters reports, with a back door that stood open for some 7 months. The bank told Reuters that there were no signs that the attack had any real consequences. One hopes not. And in fact, if those who came in through the SolarWinds backdoor were, in fact, as is widely believed, operators of Russia's SVR, they may be right. At least, the SVR probably wasn't directly interested in bank robbery, since collection of information as opposed to coin is more in their line. Had the unwelcome visitors been privateers, of course, things might well have been otherwise. And now, a word from our sponsor, Verizon. Mitigate the risks and realize the benefits of digital transformation with the help of Verizon, a leader in cybersecurity managed and professional services for nearly 2 decades. From secure cloud computing solutions to advanced detection and response capabilities, Verizon helps secure data, networks, and infrastructure of many of the world's best-known organizations. Their annual Data Breach Investigations report is considered the gold standard of cybercrime research. And Verizon's leadership in network, wireless, and IoT connectivity makes it uniquely capable of protecting the ever-expanding attack surface. Let Verizon help you optimize your defenses and achieve the maximum return on your security investments. Learn more at verizonenterprise.com/products/security. The FBI recently issued a warning to universities, highlighting their vulnerability to cyber attacks. We often discuss how a ransomware attack, for example, can lead to financial and reputational damage. But what about an organization's credit rating? Michael Osborn is Vice President and Senior Analyst for Public Finance at Moody's Investors Service. And he joins us to share how the credit rating agencies are looking at an organization's cyber defenses.
It's similar to warnings of the past, both from the FBI, from maybe other agencies as well, around the risk of, bad actors and wanting to extract information, from higher education institutions. And this particular warning revolves around a certain type of ransomware that affected, I think it's universities in a certain number of states and some other types of institutions. But, it's just another reminder that this type of attack is on the rise, that it is a real threat in higher education, and that it has the potential to affect credit quality, if it were to ever rise to a very serious level. And that's what we're concerned with at Moody's is, its ultimate, impact on credit.
What are the types of data that is at risk here with universities? What's the spectrum of things that could be affected?
Yeah, so there's a lot. And some of the attacks we've seen highlight that, you might have student record data, which might be less important than, say, confidential research or financial information of students, parents, maybe the university itself. If a university runs a hospital, now you're talking about a different level of exposure and vulnerability with patient data, records, and potentially life-threatening information. And so it really runs the full gamut. And we've seen attacks threaten most of that type of information over the last several years.
And how are universities positioned to defend themselves?
Well, I think the number one response seems to be, cyber insurance. There's a rise in those types of policies. I think the universities that are sort of large, wealthier, have sort of more resources at their disposal are implementing their own cyber defenses, and that could run a number of different ways. But I think for most universities, they don't have access to those types of resources. So insurance seems to be one mitigant, at least trying to insulate them from financial harm. Hard to insure against reputational harm. Some universities, some of the sort of bigger universities, both public and private, are part of various consortiums where they're working with their colleagues in the industry to thwart bad actors. But it's they're throwing a lot at it, that's for sure. And in an environment where the digital sort of infrastructure is more open than it ever has, with students learning online at home and those networks being exposed more, it's becoming more important, and it's consuming a larger part of university budgets.
That's Michael Osborn from Moody's Investors Service. And now, a word from our sponsor, Barracuda. A year ago, your business may have been part of that massive shift to remote working employees. Ever since, cybercriminals have been working overtime. Now, they're leveraging activity around the COVID vaccine to disguise phishing attacks, hoping to steal money or personal information. That can cost you customers hundreds of thousands of dollars and your reputation in the marketplace. Your email gateway is good for stopping viruses, but you're defenseless against targeted attacks like phishing, account takeover, and hijacking. The Barracuda email threat scanner is a free tool you can use right now to help protect your employees, your business, and your customers. The Barracuda email threat scanner analyzes your Office 365 accounts and identifies malicious emails that slipped past your gateway. Find the cybersecurity threats that are hiding in your Office 365 email right now. Use the Barracuda email threat scanner for free at barracuda.com/cyberwire. That's barracuda.com/cyberwire. And we thank Barracuda for sponsoring our show. And joining me once again is Ben Yelin. He's from the University of Maryland Center for Health and Homeland Security. But more important than that, he is my co-host over on the Caveat podcast, which if you have not yet checked out, what the heck are you waiting for?
We're begging you, please listen to our podcast.
Well, we don't want to sound desperate or anything, but it's a good show and worthy of your time. So, Ben, good to have you back.
Good to be with you again, Dave.
This article from Insurance Journal caught my eye, and it's 7 major cyber insurers form company to coordinate cyber analysis and risk mitigation. I think the modern era of ransomware has really been a punch to the gut to a lot of these insurance companies. Can you unpack what's going on here?
Yeah, so obviously we've seen an increase in cyber attacks, and it's not just the high-profile incidents. It's also just an increase of incidents generally, so it's costing insurance companies a lot more to cover cyber incidents.
Mm-hmm.
So because these claims are on the rise, a bunch of leading insurers, they mention AIG, Access, Beasley, Chubb, the Hartford, Liberty Mutual, and Travelers, have formed their own company, a separate company, to pool their data and expertise and take collective action to address this problem. So they've created this entity called CyberAccuView. And that new entity is going to compile data, enhance value, and service to policyholders. That's what they say they're going to do. So what does that actually mean?
Could this put them in the crosshairs for any, coordination that could attract regulators' attention?
Probably not.
Okay.
I would not think.
It seems as though they're coming at this from a position of good faith.
I think it is a position.
Yeah.
It's more like a consortium of experts trying to solve a problem that seems to be pretty unsolvable at this point.
All right.
I think the issue is that companies increasingly want cyber insurance, but insurance premiums have gone up so high that, because of these incidents, that people can't afford the types of insurance policies that would insure them against ransomware attacks. And as a result, companies feel that they're not in a position to offer cyber insurance because it's so expensive for them to try and cover.
Yeah.
And we already have a form of insurance like that, Dave.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because this strikes me, or I guess I have been wondering for a while, is cyber insurance headed the same way that flood insurance has headed, in that it is a type of insurance for which a private organization cannot make money. The payouts are too high relative to what you can possibly charge for the policies. So what you end up with is a government-backed insurance program that isn't particularly good.
No, in fact, bad would be a word I'd use to describe our flood insurance system.
Right. And I will tell you, I live in an area that my community has been affected by this. We got remapped into a flood zone. And it was expensive. It's both expensive, but also bad coverage. I mean, you pay a lot for insurance that really doesn't cover very much.
No.
And I wonder if we're headed that way with cyber insurance because of the big payouts.
Yeah, I mean, I think the situations are quite analogous where the likelihood of the risk has gotten significantly higher, and the damages, so the consequences of that risk has also gotten substantially higher, that it is really impossible to cover. So, I mean, that's why I think the formation of this consortium is potentially a good solution. They can get kind of the best experts in the room to come in, figure out what best practices would be, figure out, by consulting law enforcement regulators how you can ameliorate the problem in the first place, stop the proliferation of these cyber attacks, and then come up with innovative risk solutions, insurance practices on the back end if something does happen. I think that's kind of the best that these companies can do, because I think they're really at a loss. They found a dead end here.
Yeah.
It is not profitable for them to cover this insurance, but also all of their clients are coming to them saying, we need cyber insurance.
Right. Right.
So, I think they're kind of just desperately searching for a solution here.
We recently just had President Biden meet with President Putin, and cyber was at the top of their list of things that they talked about. Could the companies come at this from that direction also, putting pressure on politicians to bring this up in a diplomatic way, to say, look, you got an industry here that's dying because of what's going on with these cyber attacks. You got to put the pressure on our adversaries overseas.
Yeah, I think this could be a big part of this newly formed organization is, they have a interest in policies that mitigate cyber attacks. So they have, the power and authority vested in them by the fact that they are 7 large insurers, allows them probably access to regulators and lawmakers to go in and say, we are trying to help on the back end to make sure that there is a profitable way to cover cyber incidents.
Right.
But we also need you to help us on the front end. So what are you doing at the regulatory level? What are you doing in terms of international diplomacy to prevent cyber attacks from happening in the first place? You're not going to prevent every ransomware attack through diplomacy or through regulation. It's just not going to happen. Cyber criminals are getting smarter. They are not all acting on behalf of foreign governments. So it's not going to ameliorate the risk entirely, but it should be part of your broader effort to kind of redefine this entire field, because I think this field of cyber insurance is having this reckoning that flood insurance had perhaps a generation ago.
Yeah. All right. Well, an interesting move for sure. Ben Yelin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks to all of our sponsors for making the Cyberwire possible. If your company would like to reach 250,000 unique listeners every month, send us a note at thecyberwire.com/sponsor. And that's the Cyberwire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. The Cyberwire podcast is proudly produced in Maryland out of the startup studios of Data Tribe, where they're co-building the next generation of cybersecurity teams and technologies. Our amazing Cyberwire team is Elliot Peltzman, Puru Prakash, Justin Saby, Tim Nodar, Joe Kerrigan, Carol Terrio, Ben Yelin, Nick Valecki, Gina Johnson, Bennett Moe, Chris Russell, John Petrick, Jennifer Iben, Rick Howard, Peter Kilpie, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow. And now a message from our sponsor, CyberReason. If you're a defender fighting to protect your organization from the dark forces of cyber attackers, it might seem attackers have the advantage. To win, they only need to be successful once. As a cyber defender, you must be successful in ending attacks every single time. CyberReason reverses the attacker's advantage. They put the power back in your hands. Their future-ready attack platform gives defenders the wisdom to uncover, understand, and piece together multiple threats, and the precision focus to end cyber attacks instantly on computers, mobile devices, servers, and the cloud. Wherever your organization's data is being threatened, CyberReason is ready to win the battle against cyber attacks, with you and for you. Join them and the world's leading companies. Together, we are the defenders. CyberReason. End cyber attacks. From endpoints to everywhere. Learn more at cyberreason.com/cyberwire. And we thank Cyberreason for sponsoring our show.